in English, okay? So the panel will have basically two moments. A first moment, which will be led by David Castro, where we're going to present the strategic internationalization plan that he prepared with his company, right? And then afterwards, we will have a discussion which will involve João Correia, Luís Segura, Hugo Barros, and David Castro, who I would like to call to the stage, please. Luís, também, whenever you want. So, David, the floor is yours. But before I give you the word, I would like to introduce you. Just a few words about your resume. So David Castro likes to analyze the complexities of international political economy and its impacts on multinational corporations and public sector organizations. His experience spans various strategic and research roles, focusing on green transitioning projects and organizational transformations in private and public sectors. He is also an assistant lecturer at Copenhagen Business School. David actively engages in leadership positions, such as with Spot Nordic and Fibon. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me. And seeks connection with professionals who share his passion for driving sustainable change and organizational transformation in a transnational context. So he gave me this word, so I'm just reading, okay? By the way, he's a father of two, so bear with him. One of them is 1 month old, and his daughter is 2 months old, right?
Indeed.
2 years old?
Yes, indeed.
So he must be really, really tired, and he's just flew in from Copenhagen. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, everyone. Morning. I would like to thank you, all of you, and also tell you that it's a pleasure to be here, specifically because there's another passion that was not mentioned here, which is Ilha do Farol, and that's where I spend most of my time when I'm in Portugal. And that's very important to mention here. So as it was said, I will present you what was been addressed from the last 2 years regarding the strategic plan for internationalization of Algarve, and particularly focusing in some of the internationalization paths that should be followed to implement the project SIAC, which has been implemented since 2-3 years ago, and it's close to the end. And the agenda will essentially focus on discussing the methodology, but also strategic principles, so the comparative framework, and particularly characterize the ecosystem of Algarve and address the paths that was decided to internationalization and obviously some possible ecosystem transformations that we see as essential that also follow what has been implemented from the last years, and obviously that has been discussed and addressed by all the institutions of the Algarve region. And that I would like also to say that it's quite impressive to see all this engagement, because it's not so common to see these in regions where are not centralized as essentially European capitals, and I think that is also important to mention, and I would like to greet you all for that. The main vision for the strategic plan was to turn Algarve not only as an international, which already is, but also very entrepreneurial, futuristic, and creative region. And with this aim, we also tend to contribute to address some of the essential topics that allow us to develop a technological ecosystem in the Algarve region, and obviously simultaneously become a tech hub reference in the main areas of specialization, as for example has been addressed on sector RIS3. With that aim, we initially saw that was essential to focus in 3 essential principles, which was boosting the economic development through entrepreneurship, promoting the exploration of new economic activities through diversification, and promote the recognition, which is already, as we know, something that is a common opinion that we already achieved, but still recognized as the choice destination of international economic agents through lifestyle, and as essentially something that we definitely can't forget. So to define a specific methodology to address such a challenging task, we decided to involve the triple helix innovation model, which involves main stakeholders, governmental structures, and academia, rely on the specialization of the RIS3 Algarve or RIS3 Algarve sector, and then focusing on 3 fundamental dimensions and 3 support vectors, as you can see. I will step some of the things that I would like to say, essentially for the sake of time, but obviously if any of you will be interested in discussing further, I will be very much open to do that later. So one of the fundamental things to define the stakeholders, obviously, was the Memorandum of Understanding of the implementation of a collaborative strategy of the Algarve Tech Hub, and also the development plan of the collaborative strategy. So it's not work that has been just done for someone that comes from Copenhagen. It's actually the work that has been done from Algarve, and is the continuity of that work that we are also trying to present here and bringing here to discuss for the future. So as we see, fundamental strategic principles that were defined to support this strategic plan was essentially defining the priority sectors, but also some technological opportunities, strategic priorities, and define finally the segmentation that will allow us to decide which markets should we address and how should we address them, and in which kind of priorities we should follow to address these markets. So as core objectives, we defined to boost the internationalization of success of companies and entities of R&D system in the technological sector, attract international talent capable of generating sustainable wealth, but also develop international partnerships located in the Algarve region. Simultaneously, we also define some specific objectives and sectoral objectives that will support some of the essential sectors or some of the stakeholders particularly in order to attract specific talent, in order to promote the organic development of the ecosystem. As such, we define as fundamental sectors, as also proposed previously by Algarve Tech Hub and its stakeholders. We define as essential sectors ocean, agriculture, circular economy, renewables and transformative industries, and digital tourism. However, the web development and tech talent here are included as sources of feeding health and culture, which are the sectors that should be here, but we decided to open the door so we can focus in these two and consequently promote the development of other industrial sectors, not only health and culture, but also to promote further development in other sectors that we define as essential and very, very relevant. So as fundamental principles, we focus on the qualified talent, technological development partnerships, international companies, and international attraction. So, and every time we were thinking about what kind of proposals we should bring to the table, we were always looking at these principles. Regarding the segmentation, and that was essential, we lack, and I apologize for that, we lack the integration of NERA and ANGIR. This was previously made, so this was 2 years ago when we decided when we started doing this. So I would like just to mention that on the side of the segment of business, segment of tourism, and the segment of academia. And so all the strategic plan was developed in order to answer to these three segments. Related to comparative framework, we wanted to just mention the criteria that we decided to address and to implement towards the selection of the ecosystems, but also towards the considerations that we took in order to define how would the region of Algarve position itself regarding the rest of the world in terms of comparative analysis. So first of all, the first criteria was choosing ecosystem with comparable data, so demographic, geographic, and environmental features, defining specific popular destinations for remote workers and digital nomads. This was one of the main objectives, and design some comparative rankings from platforms like Startup Genome, Nomad List, which is one of the main ones, if not the main one in the world regarding digital nomads, and obviously Deal Room, which is the essential one to analyze, also Crunchbase, but the essential one to analyze what kind of deals are being made, what are the trends globally, what are the trends for these startups, and how we can position ourselves in order to become more attractive to these international platforms. In addition, we also like to mention some direct competitors that we decided to address. Obviously, international competitors that are exemplary and have similar traits, obviously now also in a different stage, but still relevant for us to understand how far can we go and what can we look at when we are talking about trying to position ourselves, and some benchmark ecosystem in economic characterization. So I will have to be a bit faster regarding the time, but no, it's okay? Okay.
We've got a bet going.
Okay, just because I'm looking at the time and I'm getting a bit concerned. But anyways, regarding the ecosystem characterization and the three segments that I mentioned, business, tourism, and academia, I would also like to bring some of the consequences or the results of that regarding a SWOT analysis that was requested to us. So just to give you an overview, in 2021, Portugal had averaged 2,000 more or less 2,159 registered startups. And we can see, we will find out that there is a reason why this is happening in the international rankings. We can see that Algarve is not as well positioned as we thought. But the reason is not necessarily that we don't have economic activity, is that we are not communicating to the world that we are doing it. And essentially, when we can see, if we look for the previous project that we've been developing in the region, we see that we actually have approximately 1,000 companies registered as part of the IT sector in the region of Algarve, and we have a turnover of about 130 million euros, and actually 2,000 workers, 2,500 workers registered. So, and also more or less 5 co-working, incubation, and acceleration spaces in the region. So what we see here is not necessarily that we don't have the infrastructures or we don't have the data to showcase to the world that we have a position, but what we are facing is that we are not communicating to the world as we should to be positioned as part of the top of destinations for this kind of ecosystem. So this is one thing that I would like to mention, and I think it's relevant for us because it's not only necessarily about the infrastructure, but it's also about the way we communicate to the world related to what we are doing. So in terms of tourism, I think there's no news about this. We are doing super well. So Algarve is obviously one of the preferable destinations in the world. But again, in the digital nomad list, which is the fundamental one, we see that we are facing challenges regarding positioning ourselves as top destinations to digital nomads and remote workers, mostly because, again, of communication. So we can see here from 2022, Portimão and Lagos and Faro, we're not doing so well regarding the ranking, but when it comes to this year, we already have a clear increase on the position of the ranking. Portimão and Lagos are doing better. Faro can eventually improve a bit more regarding the digital nomads address, but a digital nomads topic. But one of the fundamental issues here is the same that we faced with the business sector. Is about how we position ourselves in these international platforms and how we communicate to these international platforms comparatively to the other ecosystems. And of course, there's always much to do, and we can always do a lot regarding these topics because obviously they are extremely complex. But as we see, one of the fundamental challenges is communication. So I just brought these graphs. I will not develop much about them, but gives you an idea where Faro, Portimão, and Lagos, which are the 3 unique municipalities that are mentioned in these rankings, are positioned regarding the rest of the ecosystem. And definitely we see that there's some challenges that we are facing in terms of cost of living versus the cost of housing. And that's something that we definitely address. So the perception of these digital nomads and remote workers is that these cities, in average, are more expensive than the rest of the competitive ecosystem that we are looking at, and we believe that this is something that we also need to address in order to take the best of what we are doing to develop this ecosystem. But then, and this has been mentioned many times, regarding the academia, we definitely have several good things to explore in terms of internationalization. The University of Algarve is doing quite well when it comes to promote its internationalization. We have more or less in 2019, we had 1,800 students, 800 from Brazil, which is definitely one of the markets that we're still targeting, and 600 partnerships have been signed with various universities worldwide. So then we can see that there are several strengths that are essential that we need to keep explore, as for example, the rich ecosystem of innovation and research, exceptional quality of life, which has been mentioned, strong international branding, although we have this issue to solve regarding the international platforms that I was explaining, and some diverse resident foreign community. I have to go a bit faster because we don't have much time, and I still want to explore some topics here. So in terms of weaknesses, I think it was quite obvious for you, but I still need to mention that one of the main topics of all of the speeches that we had here was the connection between the municipalities and the region authorities, and that's actually one of the main challenges that I also faced when I lead this strategic plan, because we need to push the municipalities to address this strategy, to also comply with these aims, and because most of their competences to implement the transformations belongs to the municipalities and not necessarily to the region authorities. So this not only promoting internationalization or innovation, but everything that is around these two sectors that are necessary to be implemented through the municipalities. I would like to discuss a bit more this, but we can do it now. We can maybe eventually in the panel. So then, obviously, there are several opportunities. One was already mentioned today. New EU cohesion policy framework, and the Portuguese government has incentives for digital transformation. So obviously, that's one of the main opportunities for this strategic plan that we definitely need to explore. Also guaranteed the execution, as was mentioned, but I think that's definitely something that we can talk about. Although there are some threats, one of them is the high cost of accommodation, no doubts. The seasonality of this accommodation, also a big issue for the region, and this dispersion of the Algarve brand with the scattered messages I mentioned through the international platforms, and I will just leave from here. So now we have a big picture of the ecosystem and we understand where we are. And the decision for market approach and deciding to go to market and target market was essentially based on these criteria and supported by essential vectors as like preferred markets with existing relationships, some opportunities due to the project's characteristics, some strategies already implemented, and some activities that were already executed. And due to this reason, we didn't decide to go only to two exclusive markets. We decided to answer the needs of each of these segments and select two markets for each of the segments. So overall, the analysis was based on these 5 countries: Germany, Brazil, Spain, US, and UK. I will not go through that. I invite you to read the strategic plan if you feel interested to know a bit more about this. But definitely we defined some specific criteria to answer to the decisions that we made. And in order to profiling on a demographic, psychographic, and behavioral level, the several segments that we have been discussing, we decided that geographically we should target USA, Germany, and Brazil for these 3 segments. Some of these initiatives actually already occurred, so I'm aware that some of the initiatives that were under the project were actually implemented already, and some of these countries were already visited, and for the 3 segments. And I think it also shows that there is some strong execution regarding these projects. So the strategic plan defines a scope from 2022 to 2025. We are in the beginning of mid-2023. We see that 4 of the 10 proposals were already concluded. 3 are ongoing, which I think for the time that we are talking about, it's well done, implemented for all the entities that are part of this project. And obviously, I'm not responsible to implement them. So I think I'm not complimenting my work, but the work of the rest of the entities that are part of this project. But it's essential for us. We think that it's essential to develop engaging municipality communication channels, and promote the dissemination of the data that evolves the Algarve ecosystem through these international platforms, as you could see. Regarding some transformations on the ecosystem, we were asked to focus on attraction and retention, empowerment, and some possible strategic implementations. Also with the scope from 2022 to 2024, the first one, attraction and retention, is also with a very good execution, but also because it's more focused on 2022 and 2023. We have establishment of the ATH International Host Office. I think it's something essential that we can think about. Promoting the integration of UALG students into Algarve technology companies as part-time or student workers is also something relevant to, I know that is already done partially, but I think we can be more aggressive in this strategy in order to do this transition from the students of the University of Algarve towards the business in Algarve, and the development of the region's investment attraction FDI attraction plan. Then regarding the empowerment, and we are very close to the end, we have some proposals related to protocols with international acceleration hubs, some development of mentorship programs for creating new startups, creation of long-term housing policies to address this issue, and naturally monitoring and implementation of the new visa policies launched by the Portuguese government, which obviously we need to explore and is a great opportunity for the region of Algarve. Finally, I think that regarding some strategic, and this obviously it's a contribution from our perspective to the ecosystem, and it was not requested. So it's natural that the implementation of this sector of the strategic plan is not so good as the previous one. But one of the things that we definitely think it's necessary, and I know that we will address, is the implementation of mechanisms for funding applications for startup funding applications, investment plan to support the establishment of startups in pre-seed and seed rounds before they have the conditions to apply for European funding. So, and finally, establish public and private mechanisms for the creation of these urban redevelopment funds. So the historical centers, the historical city centers need to be improved, need to be more attractive to the ecosystem, and I think we can do something there. Sorry for some extra time that I took, but I think was very necessary to explore and expose what we have been doing for the last 2 years. And I leave you with the code from ChatGPT, a plan, no matter how comprehensive or well thought out, only gains true value when it's actively implemented and brought to life. Thank you, ChatGPT, for this help. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice time.
Okay, so thank you, David, for your interesting presentation. You were almost on time, so you have to buy coffee anyway, because you didn't meet the deadline. And I would like to pass to the second part of our panel. And I would like to start by introducing our speakers. So let me start with Juan Correia, who was born in Argentina. He's a graduate in computer science from the University of the Algarve. He started working in innovation and ID projects at Algarve, a company that was started by his parents. He's currently the sales and marketing manager of this company, and he's also an invited professor at the School of Economics, University of the Algarve. Thank you, Juan, for being here. Then we have Luís Segura. He's a graduate in tourism marketing from the University of the Algarve. He has experience in the public and private sectors, for instance, Casinos do Algarve and the municipality of Vila Real Santo António, and also with European funds linked to tourism. He currently works in the planning area of the tourism region of the Algarve. Thank you, Luís, for being here. And last but not least, let me introduce you Hugo Barros, who is an economist and a PhD candidate in innovation and territorial management at the University of the Algarve. He's currently the head of division and operational manager of the Division of Entrepreneurship and Knowledge Transfer, CRIA, at the University of the Algarve, where he ensures all business contracts and management of the incubation spaces. Hugo, thank you for being here. So I would like to start with a round of questions which is common to all of you. Maybe we can start with João and then move on to Luís and then move on to Hugo. And the question is the same for all of you. So David just presented us a vision about what we can do to push forward the internationalization of this region in terms of tech and innovation, right? But I would like to ask you, given that you are here and you live in the Algarve and you work in the Algarve, what are the challenges that we face, right? Because I'm an economist by training. I'm also a huge Sporting Lisbon fan, so I'm used to things going wrong. So I would like to explore this first. What are the challenges? What must we address to get his vision going so that in 10 years' time, we'll have a different Algarve? Juan.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Well, I'm going to say something that everybody knows. Housing, healthcare, education, transport.
Okay.
And then water. If you have to solve all these problems, one of them, because, yeah, I'm an IT guy. I like to work and live in the Algarve, but I also need education for my children. I also need healthcare when I have a problem, and not only private healthcare. We need public healthcare too. We need mobility because if I lose my license because I get a ticket, I need to have a train or something to move around, or if I don't have a car. So I think that's also a problem. And these issues, which are not new, which every Algarvian knows, I think, are not going to be solved by the Algarve itself. So yeah, we have a strategic plan. Yeah, we have a government that understands this problem. Housing is a huge challenge. We are trying to hire people, and we are not able to bring them because the salary is not enough to pay for the housing costs as was shown in the slides. It's not new. So for me, the challenges are structural, not technological or strategic. We have a correct mindset. Everyone here knows that technology is not only by itself an opportunity, but it also leverages other sectors, energy, agriculture, but we need to fix the core problems. Only then we can really say it's good to live the entire time in the Algarve. My family also needs to be here. So this is for me the current problem.
Thank you, Juan. What about you, Luís? Do you agree or do you see something different there?
I can narrow, hello everybody. Thank you for the invitation. I think I could narrow it to two essential points in this particular moment, which are housing, definitely housing, because it's a key factor to attract everybody. Of course, we can also focus on the very adventurous aspects of the Algarve, which are very important to people who want to come here, which is, for example, or for instance, security, which is we know that we don't even focus on security because it's already there, but it's very important for other people, the access to security. Housing, as I was telling you, and the main problem now, and it was the focus of the presentation, which is transversal to other sectors of the tourism offer of the region, which is communication. Get people to know that we have all these ready for them, that the destination is ready for them. We must communicate very incisively to bring the region to people. These are the main focus. Of course, David, of course, there are other problems, but we can narrow to these ones.
Okay, Luís. Hugo, what about you? Do you have any comments,
you.
questions?
Thank you all for coming. I hope to have a long cup of drinks with all of you in the next few days. So please come around. So I agree with everything, of course. Let me just say that I think, if I can say it like that, I think these are good problems. Our problems, nevertheless, but are good problems, because this means that what we've been doing in the last few years is working. So we now have problems with companies getting people to work, because it's more and more companies attracting workers and asking and demanding for workers. So it's a problem, but it's a good problem. We have less accommodation because I think we are attracting more and more people. Lagos is it's a very well example of that. It's a problem, yeah, but it's a problem because we are attracting. So I actually think that this means that we are having success on our strategy. So this will happen for sure. So we have to take care of it, we have to deal with it. But I think the actual problem that we need to develop, and I think it's being developed, I'm an optimistic, is like the president of CCDR just mentioned. We have infrastructures, we have funds, we have ecosystems, we have what it takes. I think what was needed, that I think in the last few years has been able to develop, is that we needed a functional ecosystem. And I'm sorry, because every time we talk about this, I'm always getting smacked in the head. Seems like we're talking on code. But when I mean with ecosystem is that we have business associations, we have universities, we have municipalities, we have regional government, we have funds. But sometimes we are all working, and not in a bad way. We are working in our own strategy. So it takes us to all have an aligned strategy, so that we are all complement on each other to make things work. Of course, we will need the problem with water and accommodation and transportation is a problem, but I think that what really needs is to have the Algarve take up the ecosystem to attract, is for everyone to work in a complementary way. Incubators, municipalities, I think this was being said, but in my mind, that's the critical point.
Great. Luís, do you want to add something?
Yes, I would like to answer that, to tackle that, because very recently, even during the pandemic, we have two main opportunities that we were working in Algarve Tourism Board, that were smart destination, to develop the Algarve as a smart destination with a project that was financed by the CCDR. And this project, RIA, we had the opportunity to work together within the region with the triple helix members. And the main result, not the main result, but the main aspect that survived the project was the willingness and the very successful one to work together. The Algarve, the University of Algarve, the AMAL, the Algarve Tourism Board, and we all worked very well together. And the result were they integrated the real needs and the real willingness to develop the project together. This in terms of working together. Also, the AMAL had the opportunity to develop the regional tourism mobility plan. Mm-hmm. Everybody was involved, even the municipalities. You know, for sure, we have problems problems with the lack of fast. They are not so fast to embrace the challenges.
They take their time.
Yes, they take their time. But nevertheless, they were involved, very involved, and the result also incorporate the will of everybody. So maybe we were in that position, but we are coming together faster than I would expect, but we are coming together to work as one.
So good news overall.
No,
In your perspective.
We are not there, but we are
We're going there.
We are
getting there. Okay. David, I'll give you 2 minutes to comment on whatever you think is relevant for this first round and to answer a straight question. Why don't we communicate? So you were saying we've got problems communicating in the business sector and also in the digital nomad sector, if I got it right. Why? We're a touristic region. Everybody knows the Algarve to spend holidays. So what's going on?
Everyone knows the Algarve to spend holiday, not to do business. That's the point here. But I'll go there after. So the first thing is, I just want to address 2 things regarding the challenges and the problems. So I do believe that the structural problems that we are addressing are in fact essential to give the tools to develop the ecosystem. So the issue is that the players that are responsible to do this and to play on this field are not necessarily the same players that are fully responsible to implement a thriving ecosystem, innovative ecosystem. And this might create some possible clashes that eventually there's still space to solve. So this is one of the things I want to mention, because all the topics that were addressed, I totally agree, and I see that. Regarding the question, well, first of all, the institutions and the players need to be aware that these platforms exist, right? So, and obviously, I believe that the strategic plan was also for that, to give the tools to the players to say, okay, this is where, when we want to be international and when we want to internationalize ourselves regarding communication, this is where we have to be. And I think, and that's natural that the result of the research somehow put us in a position where we can definitely do better, because majority of us or majority of the players eventually didn't know that these platforms were there, right? And they, in fact, they are the ones that are most used by these people. So I think this is the answer. And the second thing, and just to finish, is the fact that the ecosystem is also becoming aware of this potential of internationalizing itself more recently, and not so much like 5 years ago. This was not a reality, right? Or eventually was a reality, but was a very smooth reality that was discussed in some environments, but not like as public as nowadays. I also see that from outside, and that's, I think, one of the reasons as well.
Great. So let me now ask targeted questions to each of you, sorry. So let's start with Luís. And one of the things that I would like to understand is, taking into consideration what David brought us, right, in terms of the strategic plan that he presented, and I think there was a word missing in the document with it, which is sustainability, right? So it's kind of an important deal, yeah, in the Algarve. For sure, it's an important deal, and for Europe. So my question, given that you currently work in tourism, is how can we link sustainability with tourism, right? So that we can position the Algarve better within the plan that David, just commented on. Can you give us any examples, any ideas of how to do it?
Well, at the beginning of this week, I was having a very candid discussion with a colleague of mine who works in environment in the Algarve Tourism Board, that for the sustainability, she was saying that nobody cares about sustainability, and that the tourism activity may be accused of not caring so much for the sustainability of the activity. And I was very, very upset with her, but on a professional way. I was very upset because that is not really what is happening nowadays. I'm glad to see, because working in planning, you get to know that as David was mentioning, the diverse plans that are in fruition for everybody, just not just tourism, but also culture and environment and culture and the economic part of the region. So I think everybody, what we need again, is to communicate differently. I think people are stuck in the idea that tourism just wants to because you were asking me about tourism, I think people are very stuck in the idea that the tourism activity just wants to go in the territory and work and work and work and not caring for anything. But every single, I can say because we very much work together with every institution around the region in developing their own plans for development. Every single policy being worked nowadays integrates automatically policies, measures, not only to steer the development towards sustainability, but also to try to minimize what already is being done wrong. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that is, we need to be always concerned with that, but we are also very aware of the necessity to incorporate these policies in motion, in fruition. In terms of tourism, we just published our plan for marketing plan for the next few years, and we already incorporate everything that we can in terms of development. For instance, this project I was talking to you about earlier on my intervention about the smart destination, that we're trying the region to get steer into. We were very, very careful to incorporate all the European regulations, not only the regulations, but also
the regulations.
In the Portuguese plans that already focus on that. So I think there must be always a concern, mm-hmm. But I think we are trying.
Again, we're getting there.
We are getting there.
We're getting there. So I'm a pessimist by nature, but I feel very positive when I talk with these people. So got a lot of good words and good comments coming here.
Sorry, can I just add on?
Yeah, sure. Because I was going to ask you a question. So let me do two things. So I'll give you the floor, but you can comment on what Luís said, but you must answer also a question. And the question for you is about entrepreneurship, right? So we've got here a person that says that the Algarve does not have too much tourism. It has less of the other things, right? Is Dr. Vitor Neto, who is here standing looking at me. So my question is, do you really believe that we can have entrepreneurship that is not linked to tourism in the Algarve?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You're getting old. You're getting old looking at that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and can you give us some examples?
Yeah. I just wanted to say something very fast with what we're saying about sustainability, is that in my mind, sustainability, like equality or efficiency, energy efficiency, it's not even a question. So you cannot do anything like that without that, because if you go to a municipality for licensing, for funding, for whatever, that's there. So I think that sometimes we say there's a lacking of, for sure, but it's because it's such a normal thing anymore that it's not even in anyone's mind not to do it. And also the challenge is to be very aware of what others are doing. For example, here we have at this moment partners from the ecosystems in Morocco, in Vietnam, in Norway. So we try to learn a lot from each other, so that's always on the table. Regarding entrepreneurship, yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the challenge, because, and not going on the other side of the answer, but if we look at some of the ecosystems, as we call it, or the partnerships in Portugal, sometimes you have the Lisbon ecosystem, you have in Porto. So usually you have a methodology where you have one municipality of one region, one university of two universities, and usually a public entity like Algarve STP and others. So the challenge here for us is that we have a very broad region with 16 municipalities, which, of course, they have their own methodologies, their own strategies, and it's difficult because it's not one. We have 16 strategies to aggregate. The entrepreneurship is a fundamental, because in order to keep the workflow in place, it's like a sales force. So you need to be constantly selling proposals, because not all of them will be sales and not all of them will be invoices and invoices paid. So here's the same thing. We have to make sure that from kindergarten, from schools into universities, we have more and more this concept of STEM teaching entrepreneurship, not in the sense that everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, for sure. We run an incubator. Some of the important work that we do, I think, is saying to someone, please don't create a company because you'll have a problem.
Yeah.
So but being entrepreneur is not just being a businessman. So we have to work more and more so that the deal flow, so that the roadmap that we have to more and more good entrepreneurs are important. So, and just to finalize, saying that it's important, this network. David mentioned something in the presentation. I don't know if for the ones that are not as inside this, that if it was relevant, is that there was a partnership, a memorandum of understanding between, I think, 36 entities in the Algarve. This is not easy. So having 36 public and private entities aligning in one strategy, it's a challenge. But and that's why I think that's the main thing, because now we are all talking under one hat, so that's important. Entrepreneurship, it's something that is fundamental to get things moving.
Yeah, would you give me any examples of things that are being developed in the Algarve which are not tourism related and that can boost entrepreneurship in the region? Can you give just one?
Yeah. For example, we have partnerships for building, for creating ideation programs and acceleration programs. We are more and more trying to get the companies with Algarve Evolution in the ecosystem, in the mentorship, because that means that they have their own, they can give a very practical feedback, and the idea is that we can get more and more international entrepreneurs. So we are working or trying to work with the international communities, as David just mentioned, the university and other partners like Algarve Evolution and others are going to Brazil, to the US, to Europe, trying to attract more and more. As a touristic region, we are already attracting. What we have to do is change the clip and saying not only attracting but now retaining. Mm-hmm. And as David also mentioned, is that seeing the Algarve not as just a beach and a good place to have fish, and go to the beach, but also to stay here and work, because we have everything. We have a functional ecosystem with companies, training, research, other networking, municipalities. So that's important. YAPME is here, so the public entities. So that's the important thing.
Great. So we're almost running out of time. So we got 3 minutes, if I get it right from that clock here. I got a question for Juan as well. And given that you're a tech guy, right, and you're Argentinian, so you like to live a good life, I would like to ask you if there's a way that we can link technology to promote the Algarvian lifestyle, which is something that David mentioned in his presentation, so that we create something that is unique and that we can actually sell to the other guys that want to come and join this particular region. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a broad question, but yeah, I will try to answer. Just a few weeks ago, we have organized an event where we were discussing the role of ChatGPT and artificial intelligence in the hotel system. So this works in 2 ways. First, it leverages the hospitality sector, so hotels get better by using technology, and it leverages who uses ChatGPT as a tool to develop his own work. So we have seen by the presentation that artificial intelligence is one of the main focus of our development as a region, and I believe that there are several companies in Algarve Evolution who have the capability of developing this type of technology. So Portugal, it's known, and the Algarve in particular, we are very good testing spots for technology. Portugal is known as this. Samsung, whatever, comes to Portugal and they try different technologies. So it's very attractive that you are working in a country and a region that are early adopters of technology. Mm-hmm. We can position ourselves because, especially hospitality, because we are a big player internationally for that, we can be early adopters of every type of technology, and with that, attract talent that wants to test that technology. And when I'm talking about talent, not only individuals, but also companies, startups, that can test this and apply it in the day-to-day basis, and then replicate internationally. So this is a very good business model that we can apply here. Let's test it here, and then replicate for the rest of the world, and create digital products. This is one of the main messages that us as ecosystem are trying to deliver. So I think there's opportunity, very important opportunity there, and I think that the non-technological sectors really need to use the technology knowledge that we have in the Algarve and we have a great example of that, and try to work together even more to develop good technology. It's not only enough to bring the startup. We need to give them the ability to develop their technology. So yes, I think that's a very important opportunity and attractive point.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask for one more minute so I can give the word to David so he can wrap up.
Thank you. Because I would like to mention two things. First of all, regarding the issue of the sustainability, the reason, and this is a joke, of course, but the reason is because I want to keep working with Algarve. No, the fact is that it was not the core of the strategic plan. Was focused in internationalization. So that's the reason. The second thing is, and I will stop here, is how we actually promote this business. I just want to give a quick idea of this. So no one can start a startup with 5,000 or 10,000 euros as a pre-seed support or a ticket or whatever, or 35,000 euros. It's in technology. It's absolutely impossible. It's impossible to do that in agriculture or agrotech. It's impossible to do that related to water and AI. It's impossible to do that with any of the fundamental sectors that we are discussing. And while we keep discussing what we can do on the structural level and promoting business and etc., there's a fundamental thing that we need to be aware. The money that we are putting on new business in Portugal, and Portugal is not only Algarve, is not enough, and is way far not enough than comparatively to the rest of Europe. I can give you a very quick idea. In Estonia, you can start with under 1,000. In Denmark, where I'm from, you can reach in 2 years, 3 years, 200 or 300,000 of public investment. In Sweden, quite similar. So, of course, I'm not asking to put us in that position, but when we are discussing these very technological businesses, either in any of the sectors that we have mentioned, we need to think that the initial money that we are putting on this business is essential to ensure that they can reach European funds. So, and that's something that we need to discuss further, because even a startup visa of 35,000 euros is pretty good. It's a very good initiative. It's a good starting point. I'm aware that people have had some difficulties to get the money, but it's a good starting point, but it's way far.
Not enough.
No, not at all. So I just wanted to mention this because I think that's the answer for why can't we promote more new business, because we need to put money. That's the point.
Okay, thank you for that idea. I'm a finance guy, so I'm happy because we talked about money anyway. So thank you, Juan, Luis, and Hugo. Special thanks to David. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed the summit.